This is the Refuge Project.
Welcome to the Refuge Project. The Refuge Project is a place to have meaningful conversation in a safe place. Yeah. You feeling safe?
I feel pretty safe today.
That's good because we are your hosts. Yep. I am Pastor David, and we got James here.
Okay. Feeling safe?
Feeling safe. It was in the 30s yesterday here in Houston, and today it's a balming 70 degrees.
Solid 70.
Yeah.
I told David, I walked out, I opened the door to leave, had a jacket in my hand, opened the door, felt that warm air, threw it back in the house, said, I don't need this, never mind.
It's crazy, man.
Take me out.
It is absolutely nuts. You never know what you're going to find here in Houston.
But I'm super down for it to be cool still, because once it gets hot, like it's just like that for the whole summer.
Yep.
I'm not ready for 5 months of super sweaty, horrible heat.
That's what I told Sandra. She was complaining, oh, it's so cold outside. I said, don't complain.
Yeah, I'll take a few more days of jacket weather. Give it to me.
And it's not even that cold, but I mean, like, when it gets down in the 40s for us, it's just like, oh my gosh, it's so cold outside.
Well, especially it was raining too.
Yeah.
You know, you get that wet cold.
That's the thing. It doesn't just rain here. It's our winters is wet.
Uh-huh.
So
that's sticky.
And then you can't wash your cars. You can't do nothing because like 2 days later it's going to rain.
That's right.
So, yeah. But everything else is good?
Yeah, I feel like we haven't done this in forever.
We haven't.
Because I missed one for some reason. I don't remember why, but I missed one.
You were sick?
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And then you missed one.
I missed one because of preparing for the pastors' conference. Uh-huh. And we were hopefully y'all liked Dobie. Crazy testimony. So that was a really good one we released last week. And then we got one more for you in the bank from the pastors' conference that'll be releasing this week. So yeah, hopefully you like this stuff, guys. I need you to go and tell your people about the Refuge Project. Our numbers are kind of going down a little bit, and we need y'all to pump them up.
That'll help right there.
Yeah, there you go. And check us out. You can check us out on the Refuge Project on all the streaming sources. So go check us
didn't
out.
we miss a couple weeks here and there?
We did.
I feel like we keep missing stuff.
Yeah, we've been real busy. So
yeah, it's been crazy.
It's been crazy. So yeah, but just go out there, tell your family and friends, that your favorite podcast is the Refuge Project.
Yeah, lie to them.
Do whatever you got to do. Get them in church.
Yeah.
I lied to this guy one time and told him he was going to basketball. We did play basketball at the church.
So you didn't lie.
I mean, I didn't, but that's not why I invited him.
You deceived.
I did. But he gave his life to the Lord that night, and now he's married my cousin, so everything's good. Everything's good.
The cousin's cool with it?
I mean, yeah. They got a few kids and everything, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you are pro-lying. You're for it.
If you ask Sandra, she says, I've been the truth.
Oh. So you're for just a little bending.
Well, it depends on what you're doing it for. Are you doing it for the kingdom or?
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, so this brings up something.
Okay.
This brings up something. Because this was actually a conversation that Sandra and I just had. And then I ended up getting mad at the end and we didn't talk all the way home.
Nice. So
we went to a comedy show, a Christian comedy show, Friday night.
Okay.
Right?
Who was it?
It was Holter. Remember the prophet we talked about?
Yeah.
He's also a comedian.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, did I tell you that Salvador he told me, he hit me up at some point, like the week that thing came out, and was like, hey, that guy goes to my church.
Yeah. And then he told me that I misspelled prophet too.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So I need to go back and correct that.
Anyway, so he's doing comedy too.
Yeah, so at Salvador's church, that's where we went. So my sister-in-law and brother-in-law go over there in the same church as Salvador. And, man, y'all going to have to forgive me today, but I got something in my throat that I cannot get rid of.
That's all right.
All right. And so he does comedy. I wonder if he already knew that he was going to do comedy since he's a prophet.
He knows which jokes are going to work, which ones aren't.
So he had some pretty crazy stories, right? He was just telling a story, different stories in his life and whatever. And I said, as a Christian comedian, well, as a comedian, comedians tell stories, but they blow the stories up bigger than they really were.
Yeah.
You know?
That's my grandpa.
So as a Christian, but I think that's how he remembers it though, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is. He gets it all twisted. They both get it all twisted in their heads.
Right. So, to be a good comedian, you have to embellish the story to make it bigger than it really is.
I guess.
So is that a lie? Or is that just being a comedian and doing...
So let me guess. In the argument, you were for it, and Sandra was against it.
I wasn't even taking sides. She was just like, that's how you are. You just take it and you just kind of bend the truth a little bit. I'm just like...
Because I've heard my mom and my dad have this same conversation, talking about my dad telling stories. Multiple times I've heard this.
Yeah, but I think that's how they remember it.
I think it is too. Because for my dad, my grandpa, the storytellers in my family, when they're in that story, they're living it.
Oh, yeah.
It's really this big emotional thing. Like they're going through the whole thing in their head. And so then when they try to tell it to people, I think the intense emotion, of the frustration of the thing breaking or whatever it is that comes out in the story. And so it does get twisted a little bit. But I think it's because that's how they really felt.
Oh, that's how they felt.
When they were going through the thing.
So, but everybody's not seeing the emotion that was going on the inside of them.
Yeah.
When it was really happening. But so they was telling not only the story, but the emotion tied to it.
Yeah. And it's not like they just changed the story.
Right.
But the thing that lasted 10 minutes in the story, when they're telling the story, it probably lasted half an hour.
Right.
But even though really it was like we were broken down for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But,
so, Prophet, whatever his name, I forgot his name anyways. If he's on tour in the church near you, go see it. But he was telling this story about after he got first aid, he was trying to find himself and see where he was going. So he decided that he was going to go to the woods and just, him and God were going to go down, right?
Which woods?
Wait,
I don't know. Woods?
The woods.
Okay. Go ahead.
He's from North Dakota. But he's not really a outdoorsman.
I'm trying to think. Dakota.
Yeah, there's good hunting. That's where mooses and things are, right?
I don't think so.
No?
North Dakota's still in the Great Plains, right?
Minnesota.
No, I guess it's close enough to there. Okay, there's woods. Go ahead.
Yeah, more maybe mountains. No,
because look, I'm looking at the map. Well, it doesn't say North Dakota.
Plus, that map's not right.
Yeah. Okay, but above us is Oklahoma, and then it's Kansas, and then isn't it South and North Dakota?
Nebraska.
Oh, Nebraska. Forgot about Nebraska.
Yeah.
The Dakotas are okay.
South and North.
Yeah, so they're over there. Yeah, they're close enough. There's woods all over there.
So, and I don't know if he already had moved to Houston at this point or not, but so yeah, don't you're getting me I know.
Yeah.
So he goes out in these woods and he takes 7 cans of Hormel chili because that's what the real cowboys on the movies eat.
7. How long was he going to stay in the woods for?
I don't know, but anyways, so he hears these little girls screaming, "Help! Help!" So he grabs his machete. And he starts running through the woods.
How far in the woods is he?
He didn't say.
Okay.
I mean, but he's out.
He's out. Okay.
Yeah. No restrooms.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's the woods, dude.
So maybe not like a national park. You know what I'm saying? Not something like that. So he grabs his machete and he takes off running towards to help these people. He thought he was going to be a hero, right?
Yeah.
What turns out that peacocks, when they holler out or whatever, they do their yodeling.
Yeah, I know exactly how they
sound.
sound.
It's help!
No.
Help! So he thought it was like little kids screaming out for help.
This
right?
is how they sound. You ready?
Yeah.
This is a spot on one. Here we go. They go like this. They go.
Yes, that's
one
of
a spot on peacock sound.
The crazy thing about it was yesterday I went to this neighborhood.
Yep.
And this neighborhood had it was a thing. They had peacocks everywhere. It was like the peacock neighborhood, and they were just running wild in this neighborhood.
That's what they sound like, right?
and I heard help,
No.
help, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's some little girl, and then I remember
that's funny.
the comedy show that just happened 2 nights before, and it was just like
You're living it.
peacocks.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, I got to get this on tape. I got to film this, right?
Uh-huh.
So I'm pulling out, and when I tell you there was peacocks everywhere, they're like dogs running around the neighborhood on top of people's houses.
So is this you embellishing the story?
No.
There was like one peacock?
No, there was a bunch of peacocks. So I was going to take a video of this.
Yeah.
And I did the most boomer thing that you could ever do.
Oh, this is
so I'm riding down the road, and I'm holding my phone out, recording all this stuff, right? And I'm just like, this is going to be great because I'm going to send this to the group that we went to the comedy show. Help! Help! And
You got the camera backwards or what?
and then I said, okay, that's a good, that's like good 20 seconds of it. And then I pushed the record button again to stop, and I never stopped.
You did that thing.
Yes. So I got like 2 seconds of video. But I did get it. I did get it. And I did get a picture of the peacock on top of the house.
Oh, yeah.
It was crazy, man. I mean, they were just everywhere.
Yeah, show me the picture.
Yeah, I'll show you this picture. I know.
Yeah, we had the people that lived behind us. My parents' house growing up had a couple peacocks.
On top of the house,
yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
Like on top of the house. Here's the 2 seconds I'm showing
Crank
you.
it up. Crank it up. You didn't get the sound on it?
No, at the very end, I think somebody hollered. And then here's my great skills on the.
Yep.
Here comes one. Put your
that's
seatbelt on. Oh, there he goes.
So you didn't get the sound
I
of
did
it.
get that.
No, you got it.
It was going to be the greatest.
I thought
thing.
you were gonna say you got a video of you holding your phone out, but like the camera's backwards, and it was
It's
just,
just-
your face the whole time, being like, "Yeah, you see that? Look at this."
So I turned a very cool moment into just nothing.
Well, it's something. It was kind of funny that you messed it all up. That's fun.
Yeah, for y'all.
It's a different kind of fun, but we're having a good time.
Yeah, it was a good time, man. But they were really everywhere. There was they run in packs. And I guess one of the things out there was they had a problem because
Did you say where you were? I missed that.
it's in Crosby.
Okay.
It's in Crosby in this like little like niche community way back, like niched in by the water. And you have to drive through a couple neighborhoods, and then it's like a 3 or 4 street neighborhood. And there's just peacocks everywhere. And I guess at one time they had some very rare peacocks. They were albino peacocks, all white. And people came over there and were like stealing them because they're worth a lot of money. Yeah. So people were just coming over there at night and
So they don't have them anymore.
taking the white peacocks. Yeah. It was kind of sad. Didn't
sad.
know that until yesterday. But I'd love to get a video of that. Some redneck snatched up a peacock in the back of his 4-wheel drive pickup truck.
I can imagine how that video would turn out.
Help! Help! I'm sure that's what they were screaming. Help!
I'll tell you, that's what they sound. They go, ah! Just
This sounded like help.
I don't know. Maybe I bet you, depending on like the gender and maybe the time of year,
Maybe.
their sounds change. I bet
Yeah.
that's probably true.
Yeah.
Because like deer and stuff, or moose, whatever, they let out weird calls. But like the girls make one sound and the guys make another. I think that's true.
You want to hear a joke?
Yeah.
This is a joke that this elderly pastor told me that I won't say his name because he said he couldn't say it in mixed company. But this is
He didn't have his own comedy show.
He said, so this farmer went to buy him this brand new bull. It had a good bloodline and everything, and this young bull, and he was so excited. He spent like $8,000 on this bull. He's going to put it on his farm. This bull was going to service all the other cows, and he was going to increase the head count of his cows and stuff. And so he puts this bull out there, and this bull didn't have no interest in any of his cows.
Okay.
And so he was just like, man, just kind of getting, I've spent all this money on this bull and it's not even servicing these cows. So he calls the vet, and the vet was like, yeah, and he comes out and takes a look at it. And he was just like, well, he's healthy and everything. And he just might be a little bit too young, but he'll get there. He goes, but I can tell you, we can give him these pills, just have him take one a day for the next 5 days. And let's see what happens. He said, man, after the second day, this bull was servicing all these cows. He broke through the fence and he was servicing the neighbor's cows.
I like the word servicing.
Try to keep it clean.
Yeah.
And so he called the vet back. He said, man, I do not know what's in those pills, but it tastes a little bit like peppermint.
There you go.
His poor wife.
That sounds like a pill you'd get at some sketchy gas station.
Yeah, right. The Terminator.
I don't know what it would take for me to take a sketchy pill from a gas station.
Oh, bro, can you imagine? And why are they always only at the gas station?
Yeah,
you don't see them in like HEB or nothing like that.
Because they're not real. Like, it's all sketchy drug, unregulated stuff.
Can you imagine?
It's probably just like a bunch of caffeine pills and like
there's one guy out there listening right now, but y'all don't even know. Yeah, you should try it.
Like a picture of a rhino.
Have you tried it yet?
Something.
How do you know?
Oh my gosh! I'm not even necessarily saying they wouldn't work. I'm just saying that there's no way that's all they're doing to you. If that,
no,
that just
I'm sure there's been a few heart attacks that come along with those pills.
Like how many people just dropped over dead after it worked? Like it worked, and then they just couldn't take.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Anyway,
well, I guess let's jump right into Culture Corner. That's a good exit right there.
Pull up to the gas station.
Oh,
okay.
No wonder our viewership is going down.
I don't know how that even happened.
What you got for us today, James?
Okay, here we go.
Your story's got to be better than mine.
Wait, you don't even have a story, do you?
No, just about the cow.
That was culture. It's the least cultured thing. Okay, here's the title. Hillsong launches independent financial review after claims of fraud and lavish spending. So that was David, by the way. It should have been this. Yeah, so this is a story I actually read a couple weeks ago and didn't think anything about it, and then I just read it again today. I saw it again today, so figured we'd talk about it. I think you said you knew a little bit more about it, right?
Yeah, so let's just back up a little bit. So Pastor Houston, which ran the Hillsong Church forever, is out on indefinite leave because some other things that went on in the church. If y'all remember this, we covered this some months ago, that his dad touched a little kid inappropriately.
Oh, I don't remember that part.
Yeah, and so he didn't report it to the police. The son did. The son, Pastor Houston. And because of that, now he's being investigated for not reporting it. So he's already in a little bit of trouble. Hillsong Church, the one in New York, the pastor had an affair.
Yeah, Carl Lentz.
Carl Lentz. And I think there was another one somewhere else. And then a lot of the different Hillsong churches are now pulling away from the brand Hillsong and starting their own church. So we got that already going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's been going on. And so then this was, said there was a whistleblower that had access to these financial records that was, let's see, they accused him of a lot of things. They accused
Louis Vuitton, baby.
Yeah, but okay, so here it is. It says Hillsong has announced an independent review of its financial structures after Australian independent MP Andrew Wilkie accused the church of fraud, money laundering, and tax evasion. Yeah, and so the things he cites, he says Mr. Wilkie told the Australian Parliament that the church donations were used, quote, to do the kind of shopping that would embarrass a Kardashian. The MP used parliamentary privilege to make public thousands of pages of financial records provided by an unnamed whistleblower. He accused the church of earning $80 million more each year than it declares, using honorariums to hide income, and, quote, treating private jets like Ubers.
Yeah.
He alleged
80 million.
More than what it made.
80 million more.
Yeah. Is what he's saying. He's saying that they didn't report it to the IRS.
80 million.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about only 80 million. 80 million more. So they probably, if this is true, allegedly reported 100 million or something.
Well, before I even read the rest of the article, let me say what's...
And he's treating private jets like Ubers.
That's what they're claiming. So what's his name?
Now, Hillsong comes back and says, well, pump the brakes, pump the brakes.
Yeah, I'm trying to find his quote. It's at the end of this article here. Our structures change.
I think a lot of times that, you know, so if your church is bringing in a bunch of money, like, shouldn't your pastor get a piece of that, though?
Yeah. So here it is. It says Houston. I guess it's the Sun, Houston.
Yep.
He said that he called the allegations, quote, either out of context, misleading, or false. So anyway, that's what they said.
And the church said, listen, if this guy would have just like reached out to us, we would have kind of opened the books a little bit and showed him where his errors are. But he decided not to do that to get a bigger splash in the media instead of coming together and just try to figure this thing out. Now, it's not uncommon for a businessman of any kind, if it's in the church or outside the church, to have a credit card. So some of the questions are, was the church paying back off of the company, off of the personal card, and then in that personal card he had like shopping sprees and stuff out of his own money, or was this a church credit card? And that wasn't explained in the article.
Yeah. The dude accusing him, it says he alleged that the church funded a $150,000 3-day luxury retreat in Cancun, Mexico, private jets flights for senior pastor Brian Houston, and numerous business class flights for new senior pastor Phil Dooley. Other expenses.
Homeboy's like, look, I'll be up in first class if y'all need me.
Yeah. Hey, dude, the difference in price between a first class ticket and like a regular ticket is, it's astounding.
Yeah, because I looked at them for to go to Hawaii. It's like $1,000.
Oh, same.
$1,000 to go back. You know, fly there and come back. $1,000, just regular, whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
6,000.
Yeah, it's not just like an extra 20%, extra 50%, or even twice the price.
6,000.
Yeah, it's like times 5, times 6 the price.
Yeah.
I looked at some of those flights for like to go to Europe, and you could find flights and business. Like if you did it right, you could find them for like 500-ish a ticket. So, you know, 2 people, like you said, like 1,000. But then, you want to go first class, it's like $5-6 grand. And you're like, what?
Business class is not bad. You can
even
upgrade.
that, though, is still like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Like a regular.
But you do at least get a little bit of room, you know?
Yeah. Which is why I thought it would be useful if you're flying, you know, across an ocean or something. You're going to be on there for a while. Anyway, where was he at? This stupid website keeps taking me to the top of the page, and it's really annoying. It keeps... Anyway, where'd it go? Okay, yeah. It says, other expenses are alleged to include thousands of dollars worth of designer luggage and jewelry for Hillsong leaders, as well as $16,000 in custom skateboards. That was the fun part.
Yeah, that's what I was confused about. What are we doing here? Like... $16,000 in custom skateboards.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Just they got like a cool Hillsong logo on them, or?
But also, so if you go back to what Houston said, he was saying this is all like out of context stuff, misleading or false, is what he was saying.
Or did they purchase $16,000 of skateboards and put a cool sticker logo and then like ship them overseas to give to a bunch of kids?
Yeah, was it something like that?
Yeah, we don't know this stuff. So I'm always really, you know, of course, with the Hillsong documentary coming out on Netflix and all this stuff, and then of course, if you have anything like that, people are going to come out of the woodwork to tell their stories.
Yeah,
I guarantee you, if there was a documentary done about this church, there will be people coming out of the woodwork that got their feelings hurt by something somebody said or something like that in every church of America.
But also most of those people, I think they've already got in their head that like that church or the church in general is all these horrible things, X, Y, and Z. They hate gays, they're all that stuff. They don't pay taxes. Just a bunch of scummy, sleazy people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just rigging the system so they want to take your money. Like they've already got those thoughts in their head most of the time, I think. And I don't know anything about this guy that was saying all this stuff about the church, but also when they talk about like private jet stuff and like first class kind of things, I feel like once you reach a certain level of celebrity status, I'm not saying you're like entitled to first class, but I'm saying like if once you reach so much popularity where you can't really just go out in public without having security and stuff,
right?
Like flying private kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, and also like how many hours? And while we're talking about that, pull your song up. We're gonna debut his song here.
You want me to email it to you or something?
Or you just hook into the Bluetooth there. And then how many hours? So if you're preaching 3 times a weekend, all over the world, like some of these guys, like Houston, he's running a church that goes across multiple continents, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're expecting him to sit in airports across the world for hours at a time, or he can get into a private jet and be home in half the time to take care of his family and different things like that. So I don't know. I just have a hard time sometimes just really looking at this stuff from the surface when we really don't know.
Yeah.
But
it's not like they're too good for regular plane tickets or something. It's just like at a certain level, it doesn't make sense for you to just be sitting in all those lines. Like you've got to, like maybe he's got to be back on another continent to preach something like the next day. Like you kind of need to be able to just go and stuff.
And then obviously, I mean, he's bringing in the money, right? I mean, there's an extra $80 million out there. So, I mean, what he's preaching in honorariums is, sounds like they can afford this stuff. It's not like, I mean, if I made a couple $1 million a year and I wanted to buy me a Louis Vuitton bag, like, who cares? But
money. Even that's a little harder to justify because at least with flying private, you can kind of say like it's necessary to a certain extent because of my crazy schedule and because of how known I am. I already have to hire a security team.
Right.
Like, you can kind of justify that. If it's just like luxury bags, it's that those kind of things are like purely he just wants a luxury bag, which
it's all the church is not paying for it. Now if the church is paying for it, I have a problem with it. But this dude's role.
But I think that was part of what the dude was claiming is that they're charging all that kind of stuff to the church. They're taking these people from the church on these luxury vacations to Cancun and I don't know. I mean, but again, like you don't even know what that is. Maybe that was some retreat where they're. I don't remember who he said
that happens all the time. I have a buddy that's a children's pastor, and their organization meets in Cancun or Costa Rica or whatever, and everybody goes down there and they have their leadership meeting.
Yeah, and we have like kids camps.
Yeah,
and we have things for adults too.
So I don't know. I think it's easy to say all this stuff on surface. The problem is, this is the problem. There's too many people too many high-profile churches have done it and not done it right.
Yeah.
So that becomes a problem, and we've put an ugly name on the church.
Yeah. But of course, I don't know any of their real context, and I think more of the allegations than not are probably going to fit under the category that Houston said, where he said it's either misleading, out of context. I think more of those are probably going to fit under that. But I don't know. And
just like Joel Osteen, he doesn't even take a salary from the church because he makes so much money on books.
Oh, really?
So like he's wrote just as many books as anybody. Houston. Yeah. So he's probably have a bunch of extra income. Well, then he could give it back to the rest. I mean, you don't know. He might give $20 million a year back into, whatever. We
Yeah.
like everybody relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Like God's going to take care of this stuff. If it's ugly, he's going to smite them down. If it's good, then he's going to continue to bless them.
Yeah. If I had to guess, I would guess a small percentage of whatever he's alleging is
real.
probably true.
Yeah.
And then, just threw all this other stuff on out of context to make it look worse.
Yeah, like most everything, right?
Anytime there's a court case of anything, there's always some level of truth, and then they just throw in all the other stuff to make them look like the way they're trying to portray them.
Yeah, so that
would be my guess.
We're recording this on March 21st, and the same thing they're doing to Donald Trump right now. They said he's going to be arrested today.
Oh, yeah. What was it for the documents? Why did they say
No,
he was
this
going
is
to be arrested?
something that goes way back to the Daniel story where he had a relationship with this, I think it was a stripper or something way back when.
What is he being arrested for, though?
They haven't let it out. Like Donald Trump himself had leaked this.
No.
Because he got word from the DA's office from a friend of a friend of a friend that they were going to come and get
interesting.
him. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah. But it's just one of those things. Like you get a little piece and then you want to blow it up.
Yeah,
because all they're trying to do, and I don't want to get into politics, but they're just trying to disrupt the next presidential election. They don't want Donald Trump there.
Well,
so,
nobody wants him there.
So both sides, right? He just really needs to just step aside and let Dos Santos or whatever his name is, and let him support him, and that would work out very good for the Republican Party.
But nobody wants him there. Democrats don't want him. Republicans don't want him.
You have to have an ego. Like if you want to be the president of the free world, like there's something wrong with you in the first place.
It's
right?
weird.
Who wants that stress? Who wants that control and all that stuff? You have to have a huge ego to even want to be in politics in the first place.
You're trying to tell me Donald Trump has a huge ego?
Now
this is the most outlandish allegation I've heard.
It's big. It's real big.
You think it's huge. That's the word. There you go. All right. Anyway, that's our culture quarter. There you go.
All right, we got a song for you today, and it's called
Please Go to Sleep by a sweet band named Eucalyptian. Here we go. This is the music video audio for it.
And for the first time in color, please welcome Eucalyptian.
Hey everybody, we're Eucalyptian, and this is our new record, Please Go to Sleep. Hit it!
I've been trying to fall asleep for so long, I'm exhausted, and I think I found the answer to your problem, but I lost it. There's a ringing in my ear that just won't go away. I think if I could just fall asleep, I could make it through the day.
there we go. That was it. That's the new single that just came out 2 weeks ago.
Where can you watch the video?
On YouTube. Go watch it on YouTube. Where else you watching videos these days?
Where at on YouTube?
If you just you can search our name. If you follow us on Instagram, we have a link in our bio. But if you just go to YouTube, search up Eucalyption, which is EUCALYPTION. Name of the song is Please Go to Sleep. It'll pop right up. Just say Please Go to Sleep official music video, all that kind of stuff.
Where on Instagram can they follow you?
At Eucalyption. Anything's just Eucalyption.
So you on Twitter?
We technically are, but we don't use it.
Okay.
We had it, and I don't know. I can't get into it. I hate social media so much. Like, I hate using it so much. So I don't have any personal social media stuff, and I've never really done it. It's like, it's this massive job for me just to have a band Instagram, just like the one.
Yeah. You need to use an app called Hootsuite.
Dude, so I used that app, and it was great because you could post. You could
go to all the different ones.
Yeah,
right?
and you could like schedule. You could tell it to post tomorrow at whatever time. It was great. But in order to use anything, you have to have a Facebook page that you link everything through. And so we made a Facebook page just so that we could use all these other features everywhere. But at some point, Facebook just like signed us out of that page, and it wouldn't let us back in. And the end of the story is we couldn't use it. And you can't just like call up Facebook customers. There's no.
We're still dealing with some stuff through our church Facebook because they won't get back with us.
Yeah, so they wouldn't. So they just like took our account. Don't know why. They kept doing the whole thing like, "Hey, sign back in," and then to verify this is you, type in the code we sent to your phone. But they would just never send a code, and it's the right phone number. And I don't know. It just never worked, and we couldn't get back in. And so, since I couldn't log into Facebook, I couldn't use. You can't promote stuff on Instagram. You can't use any of those third-party apps because everything has to be like. Because since Facebook owns Instagram,
right.
like you have to link all your stuff, and it's pretty terrible. I started to try to make a new Facebook the other day, and I still couldn't even make that profile just because of all the nonsense with Facebook. And I read somewhere too that like if you're not posting like a couple times a week or something like that on there, it'll just take your page to. I think it's something where they're trying to crack down on like bot pages.
Right.
So they want you to like be a person that's on there doing stuff.
So that's what Twitter did when Elon Musk came and took it over. He made everybody paid to be verified. Yeah, it's like $1 or $2 a month or something like that. But by doing that, it got rid of all the bots, right? Because the bot companies are not able to spend $2 a month on millions and millions of pages, right? So it cut down on a lot of the bot pages and the inflation of fake news and a lot of the other stuff. So, which is a brilliant idea.
Well, that's great. But like in my case, like what if I just wanted to be a person to just kind of look at people's pictures on Facebook, but I didn't want to post stuff all the time? So does that mean I can't even do that now?
Well, that's weird. Maybe because it was a band page and not a personal page. Because we don't. I mean, I have a Facebook page and never post on it.
Yeah. So the one I started to make a couple days ago, I just made like a James Nissen one that I was going to link to our band Instagram, and also that I could use some features, and I still couldn't even seem to get that to work. I don't remember what the deal was, but I don't know. All the criteria for just to have a stupid Facebook page was not. It was so tough to make it work. It was really annoying.
It's crazy.
But anyway, yes, if you have an Instagram, you can follow us there, and anywhere you listen to music, it's all there. iTunes, Spotify, everywhere, Amazon, whatever, YouTube. Go check it out. We're pumped. We're about to announce a bunch of shows that we're gonna.
You want to share any of those here?
Well, I don't have enough details on them to share them yet.
Okay.
So, but I've got a couple dates that we're looking at with a few different bands around the Houston area. So,
all right. Once
I get them done, I'll definitely announce them for sure.
Sweet Caroline.
Which, by the way, did I tell you I got an MPC? Did I tell you that? I'm all like, I'm like making beats and stuff now.
What? That used to be the piece, bro.
Yeah,
if
man.
you had an MPC, I don't know if it still is or not, but
I mean, it depends on what kind of world you're working in.
hip hop world, that was it.
Yeah. So I got an MPC one, which is a newer. Well, I guess at this year it's like probably 4 or 5 years old, but I got one of those called an MPC one. It cost me like $750. But my whole thing was, because right now the live shows we've been doing, the way it's been set up is like Ben's on guitar, and for a few songs he might loop a bass line or something. But on my end, it's like I've got 2 or 3 synthesizers, a drum machine that I'm all controlling. It's like a whole bunch of gear. And so I was trying to simplify that setup. And so with the MPC, you could do a ton of sequencing and stuff from the MPC. And without getting into a bunch of techie, nerdy stuff that most people won't follow, I think I can cut down on the gear that I'm going to have to bring. So instead of bringing like a few synths, a drum machine, and then a keyboard or two to control the synths, and then a bunch of pedals and a mixer to put all that through, and a looper, like instead of bringing all that stuff, I should just have to I'm going to bring my actual drums now, play drums on like half the songs, and then I'll have my MPC next to me, and then maybe one synthesizer to mess with depending on the song. So it'll just have drums, one box, and then another box.
Sweet.
That's the goal. But I have to like make an entire new show now, because I have to make all the different sounds in the MPC and do all the different sequencing and figure out how we're going to do it. So it's like a ton of work now. But I think once I do it, I think it'll be worth it. It'll have more flexibility, less gear, easier setup and tear down, and I think we'll be able to do more stuff with it. So
And run it through MIDI on like first strike of whatever it turns
if you
itself
wanted
on
to
or
do
whatever.
that.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't gotten that far, but I think I could do a lot more of that stuff. So we'll see. But I'm pretty excited about it. But it's going to take me like a month, just of all my free time, just like trying to make a new show and figure out the concept of how we're going to structure the songs and how I'm going to sequence things and the sounds we're going to use. And
Yeah, I remember going to the studio, and then like the producer had the MPC. Everybody be gathered around it. Oh man, you got the MPC.
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
It's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Well, you know what? I was talking to a brother the other day, and he was telling me his testimony. It was actually Dobie, and so we started just like talking about testimonies and stuff. And so I just gave him a quick rundown of my testimony. He goes, "Have you ever told that on the podcast?" And I was just like, "No." I really try to like move away from it a little bit, and we joke around about me, being from the hood or whatever, but it's just something that,
You've definitely brought up little pieces.
Little pieces, right?
You've never told the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm almost 50 now. That was in my 20s. Like, it's not something that, I brag about or anything like that. But he said, I think that you should share it because it could touch a lot of people.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm gonna do today. I just want to share a little bit of my testimony, and then James, if you have some questions or whatever, just stop me at any point, and maybe something you're interested in hearing that somebody else might be.
Sounds good.
But most of y'all know, I'm a pastor here at the Elam Church in Houston, Texas. I've kind of worked my way up from just being a servant. Youth pastor, small groups pastor, and now executive pastor. So, but my roots go way back in this church, as far as back as the Nissans. My great grandmother was part of the original church with your great grandmother.
Yeah,
Your 2, my 3.
I think.
And they served in the Elam Church before it was Elam, when they were having tent revivals. And sweeping dirt floors and stuff back off of navigation. So that's kind of where my roots were. And then, my parents, on my mom's side, there was always a Christian, tone to everything that we did. My mom's dad was a preacher. My mom's brother was a preacher. My cousins, they're all, pastors at churches, and I'm a pastor here at this church. So there's always been, this thing that was important to serve God. And so that's what we did. We all served God. I went to this church Matter of fact, Sister Chris, I went through her program in the child care.
Oh,
the
Miss
nursery.
Chris?
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah, I went through her program. So that's how long she's been here.
Yeah, because she was there. I went to her.
You went to her. I went to her. My kids, now my grandkids.
That's crazy.
We've all been through those. And as a kid, my mom had a lot of health problems as far as like back and knee issues. Mm-hmm. So I can remember as a kid just running around under the pews across the street before we had this building, and running around behind and under the stage. Me and your cousin Wade, we were always up to something, in the church, and we kind of, because of being around the church, we were like kids of the church, and so we had a little bit of access to parts of the church that nobody else did. So we kind of got to run a little bit free, and just having those memories, running around the church and different things like that. My mom started having some, health issues with her body. And so we didn't come to Elam for probably a handful of years. My mom put me on a bus to the local Baptist church because they come around and pick up kids. And my mom just always thought it was super important for her, even if she couldn't take us, that the kids got to church. Yeah. My dad, he knew God. He knew of God. Didn't really have a relationship with God. My dad was always struggled with substance abuse, mainly alcohol. He tried some other stuff growing up as a kid, but never was addicted to like drugs or anything like that. I imagine everybody in their age smoked a little bit of weed, in the 60s and 70s. Yeah. So not everybody, but a lot of people. Yeah. So I never knew my dad to go to church. I've always had a great father. My father was one of those guys that never missed a baseball game, never missed a sporting event or anything that was going on. The only thing that he ever missed was maybe something I did at church. Mm-hmm. We never could get him to come into the church because he had a foundation of who God was and those things. So it was almost like if he goes to church, then he has to come eye to eye with God. Yeah. So he never came to church. So my mom always brought us to church. If it wasn't the Baptist church, my grandfather and uncle planted a church at one time. So several years we went there, and then I guess about 12, 13, maybe a little bit younger than that, we came back to Elam, and so then we came here. I can remember most of my youth was here. I went through several youth pastors. Paul Owens was my first youth pastor, and then Pastor Keenan, one of my mentors to this day. And then after that, Brother Mark back then. Yeah. So they were my youth pastors, and those are formative years of my life that really gave me a foundation of what the rest of my life would look like. And then we did that, man. All my girlfriends that I ever had all came from church. I tease my wife now, Sandra, that I dated all of her friends before I got to her. I saved the best for last, and it was just because it was our group of friends, and so did those things for a while. While I was dating this girl, Michelle, I won't give her last name out there because hopefully she's doing good in life now. But we were taking karate lessons from this Reverend such and such, and y'all have heard this. Y'all have heard this story before, which is a great story, right? Tell it again. So we were taking karate lessons from this Reverend, and tell
the story.
And we're having these private lessons, and then what come to find out, she was having even more of a private lesson.
With the karate guy?
With the karate guy, Reverend, whatever his name was. But Their private lessons were more of a like yoga.
Oh yeah.
Instead of
he was teaching her flexibility.
Yeah. And so it wasn't like I was going to just like go over there and bust in and like he was a karate dude, like he was a black belt and he took my girl. You know what I mean? It was like Karate Kid, but no Mr. Miyagi. You know what I'm saying?
But Mr. Miyagi stole your girl.
But like I didn't have a Mr. Miyagi to teach me karate to go get my girl.
Yeah, no, he had her.
So
he had you out there waxing stuff. Gosh.
So, between that and I think a couple of mistakes that the leadership made here at the church, no fault for their own, right? Probably a lot of it was just my immaturity of not being able to handle correction and different things like that. And then that happened. I was already having sex as a teenager with one of my girlfriends. Actually, that one, I guess she was with both of us.
I don't remember the first time I heard this story. I don't remember him being a reverend.
Yeah, he was a reverend.
I totally missed that part.
And he was a young guy, so he probably shouldn't have been a reverend at that point. He had this older mentor that really tried to help me through this whole thing because he knew that he was stepping out of the boundaries of where he was in his ministry, the karate teacher. So he had to break relationships with him too, right? So that older fellow tried to walk me through it, but I was hurt, and that was when I really told God, like, if that's the type of God you are, I don't want nothing to do with you. And so I spent the next 15 years on a road of destruction and leaving just a wake of evilness and sadness and depression and hatred and to the rest of the world the way that I was acting out, because I was fully submerged in church. I didn't have any friends outside of that. I was always a good athlete, so I was always all-star athlete of whatever I'd done. So I had some friends from there. But the area that I lived in was it wasn't well to do, so the people that lived around me were in gangs, doing drugs, selling drugs, those type of things. So when I left the church, I just drew to that. I went outside and what I seen, I started hanging out with because I already knew them from school. They've been living on my same street since I've been little, so it's not like I wasn't familiar with them. So I started hanging out with them, and it was one of those things that first becomes smoking cigarettes. And I've always had an issue with cigarettes, like from when I was little, 8 years old, getting caught smoking. Jeez. My uncle, he would buy a case of cartons, and I would steal packs of cigarettes. So as an 8 years old, I had packs of cigarettes, so I would get in trouble for that. So it started off that, then smoking weed, and then, and then everything just compounds itself because then you're like, oh man, well if I could just sell a little bit of weed, then I don't have to pay for my own. And it all starts like, okay, I'm just going to do this so I don't have to spend my money on my personal use, and then we begin to sell quite a bit of drugs. When I say that, probably a couple 100 pounds of marijuana, maybe 100 pounds of marijuana, a quarter kilo of coke, and maybe several hundred pills of ecstasy a week.
Yeah.
And it just kind of compounded quickly. And then when you're young and you're selling that much drugs, and then the money's coming quick, and you're partying a lot, you gain, what the guys on the street called street cred.
Yeah.
And you become very popular to the people around you. You got a lot of hang-ons, a lot of people that want to benefit from,
your success,
my success, because it's not like I can go home and say, hey mom, look, I got $6,000, because where did I get that $6,000 and hidden cars and different things like that? So you just spent it, and people around you benefited off of those things. So they blow up your ego. You become something that you're not, and they make you think that that you are something that you're really not, and that become a problem with me because I become the crazy white dude, and then coming from a more of a Hispanic and black area, I felt like that I had to be like more crazy, more wild than anybody else to prove myself, to have worth. And so it became an issue. So we just kept.
Do you think you would have left the church if that thing with the girl wouldn't have happened? Like, what else was going on? Because it seems, like that would have been, as a teenager, that would have been a big deal for sure, and would have hurt you a lot.
Yeah.
But
because she was the first one that I had sex with, high school sweetheart. So, we were already into the 16, 17, 18-year-old. Like, we were about to graduate from high school.
But say that didn't happen. Do you think you still would have left for something else or some other issues?
I was already a little bit rocky, you know. And I'll just be upfront and honest. I played the drums in the youth back then. And I was terrible. Yeah, I wasn't good. I could. We all were. I could keep a beat, but I wasn't good. And instead of the leader of the youth group coming and telling me, "Hey, man, this is just not working out. We're going to bring another drummer in," I just showed up to church one day and there was another drummer. You know what I mean? And that crushed me. So that wasn't done right. But at the same time, I wasn't mature enough to handle it, So I just had a lot of resentment for the leader at the time. And still to this day, that leader doesn't know what he done to me. I never went and told him, "Hey, man, you crushed me," I don't know. I was already down the path a little bit because, I was already having sex and I was already doing certain things, but I was still a good kid. Yeah. I don't know if it was just one more thing waiting to happen or it needed to be a big thing like that, because even though the drum stuff kind of crushed me, I still loved the Lord, and I still wanted to be in church. But when that happened, I was just like,
that's it.
And it was one of those things where that I teach on now is like, I took my eyes off of who God was and put them on man. Right. And it assumed that this man, because he was reverend, that he was God. Yeah. And I couldn't distinguish between the two because I was a young, immature guy. And that's why I think that as youth leaders and youth pastors and those things, that we have to be very careful because the way that these young people look at us and try to be who we are, because for them, you're representing God. Yeah, we're representing God, but we're not God, So our failures are God's failures. And it's a tough role to be in. Probably, I don't know, maybe not. Yeah. Maybe not, because I really did love the Lord and I really did love this girl. Like, I really did love her. And we, of course, every 18-year-old, we talked about marriage and all the things and all that, especially being first and high school sweethearts and different things like that. So that happened, the drugs, alcohol, addictions, addicted to selling drugs, addicted to the money.
So how old are you now?
So when all this started, I was probably 17, 18. Okay. 18 years old. I was 18 years old because I was buying cigarettes for all the homies, because everybody else was 16, 17 years old. I was held back in the third grade, so everybody I ran with, I was always a year older. So so in the next really 15 years or so, I just fell into this, really just gangbanging, street fights, drive-bys, shootouts, just some crazy, wild stuff. And even through all of those things, man, there was always a whisper of like, "David, what are you doing here? Yeah, like you don't belong here." So I always had that voice of God in my ear, like, when somebody would break into one of our dope houses. We had like different houses that we would stash dope, and another house that we would stash cash. And it was bigger than we ever thought it would be. You know.
And what's going on with your family this whole time? Family being like parents, siblings, like everybody you grew up with.
So.
You went to church with, took you to church. Like, what's going on?
So,
you're in your 20s.
Yeah, so now I'm 19, 20 years old, getting in and pretty deep at this point. Mm-hmm. Well, let's back up. So, like 18, I just really, before around 18, 19 years old, my mom's really just, she was Hail Mary, and like she was tough love, you know.
Probably didn't know what to do.
She didn't know what to do, so she was just like, hey, you can't stay here if you're doing these things, right? And she put all my stuff out on the curb. And so I was just like, peace. That just gave me, for me, that just gave me an open invitation to do whatever I wanted.
Yeah, you're free to leave and do your
free
thing.
to do whatever, because now everything that I thought about that I couldn't do because I lived at home, now
you can do it.
I can do it.
Go get your own place.
Yeah. So, another buddy of mine, I stayed at his place and paid a little rent over there. Now, all this time, I still held a legitimate job. Always. I've always had a legitimate job. So just wilding out and all these different things, ended up meeting my ex-wife, and just really kind of dove in it harder because she kind of hung out with a different higher class type people. Well, guess what? They wanted the same thing that I was selling. So it just elevated me even more. So now I'm moving on a richer side of town, selling to different types of people and all those things. And, when I was on the streets, I got arrested multiple times, and it was just like every time I just got away just by the skin of my teeth, and we got arrested one time for breaking and entering, but they didn't catch us like in the act, so they had to let us go.
Yeah.
Another time, we got busted for like assault rifles and 1,000 rounds of ammo and dope and all kinds of stuff. And just so happened the friend that I was with, that his sister was dating like the narco cop. She was a cop, and he came in there and he said, shake these guys' hand, tell them you never put them back in these positions, and we walked away free.
Jeez.
And we were looking at 20 to 50 years on that case.
Yeah.
But there was always something there like protecting me, and at the end of the day, like, was it protecting me, or was it just giving me like nobody can touch me type attitude? And that's kind of where it was. I didn't see it until later that God really had his hand on my life, because there was a greater calling, right?
Yeah.
So, make a long story short, we got into an argument over some black book. So we pulled up to a gas pump, and there was another guys that we were always into it verbally with these guys. But supposedly they pulled off. We pulled up to get gas. They left the black book, some of them, I don't know, a book. I don't know what it is. They accused us of taking it. We didn't know what they were talking about. Well, things got violent. I don't want to go into detail, but things didn't go well for them. Mm-hmm. They came back with revenge. We go to jail for both of the previous time and then that time. And
how old are you now?
I am about 23, 24 years old.
Okay.
And I'm already on probation for a drug case that I picked up 3 weeks before. So I haven't even seen my first probation officer on a drug case.
Yeah, you broke that probation.
Yeah. And then I pick up this aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. So I'm in like...
It's not a good look.
No, it's not a good look, man. And so all the money that I ever had made and saved was about $15,000. Of all the probably a couple $100,000 that passed through our hands, I've only saved 10 to 15,000, and it was everything that I had to buy the best lawyer I could buy, and he got that reduced to 2 misdemeanors, and I did 4 months in jail.
Wow.
Yeah, I did 4 months in jail.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was. And I can remember the day when I was going to court. I knew I was going to jail, but I was at my mom's house. And by this time, I've already tried to patch up our relationship because, so the whole jailhouse religion type stuff. You're like, oh yeah, God, if you get me out of this one, if you get me out of this one, and that's where I was with my relationship with God. Even though that He got me out, bro. I mean, I can remember shootouts where I could hear the bullets passing by my ears, like just crazy stuff where I shouldn't be telling the story, And I told my mom, I remember looking at my mom's eyes and telling her I'll be back. I'm just going to go to court and I'll be back. And I knew that was going to be the last time that I see my mom for a while. I didn't know I was going to get probation. I mean, I didn't know they're going to drop it from a felony to a misdemeanor. I didn't know that. I thought I was, easy 10, So I get there and he gets it down. He says, but you have to go today. So I'm just like, okay, so
go to jail today.
Go to jail today, yeah. So I ended up doing my 4 months, and that's when I really realized that my grandfather was a great man of God. He had been prophesying over my life for a while, and everything that he was prophesying over my life was totally contradicting everything that I was living. So I couldn't see what he was saying, like I was going to be, a man of God, and I was going to be married to this Hispanic girl that's, that's going to school and doing everything right and all these different things but it didn't match up with my lifestyle. And I was just like, okay, he's obviously missed, God on this one. And then when I was in jail, I think I was in jail maybe at 25, 27, something like that. I can't remember. But that's when I just really started reading the Bible. But not really. It was just still some jailhouse religion,
Something to do.
Something to do. My foundation was Christ, So I knew that I loved Christ. And I think while I was in there, I was sincere.
Yeah.
I really was sincere. I wanted to do better. But I had a lot of scars from my previous relationship. I could remember Josh, my son, he was just like 3 years old. And I always told myself, like, what I'm doing is only hurting me. Everybody would just leave me alone. I was a good father on my weekends. All that was put to the side, and I was a father. On my days to get my kids, I was always a good father. But it was in between those times that I filled my life up with like chaos, and it was just like, as long as there was chaos going on around me, I was good. But it was those quiet moments when I had to deal with my issues, my anger issues and my hurts and my pains and all those things. That's why I kept chaos in my life, because I was dealing with the chaos and not the issue.
To focus on that.
Yeah.
Instead of, yeah.
And I remember, Josh, the only time that my parents brought my kids up to see me in Harris County is terrible for visits, man. It's got this glass, and you're talking through this little mesh thing, and everybody's yelling because nobody can hear. So everybody's yelling so nobody can hear, And I could read his lips. He told me, "Daddy, I want to stay with you," And it's the first time in my life that I really realized that the things that I was doing didn't affect just me.
Yeah.
They affected the way my kids were seeing me. They affected the way my mom was praying for me and how much she loved me. And, my mom had 2 knee replacements, and she tells me that's my fault because she was down on her knees so much, praying for my sorry tail. And so after that, I was just like, okay, I'm going to do right. Like, I'm going to listen to my grandfather, because that's a better path than where I was on, but not because that was the right thing, right? Just because he said it, so I'm going to do it. So I ended up marrying Sandra, and, it was just such a conflict of personalities, because she was like so focused on school and so focused on doing the right thing and serving God and all those things. And the inside of me, I wanted to do those things, but I just couldn't do it. So I was still like smoking weed when she wasn't around, and going to the homies and stuff like that, and hanging out with it when I could get a chance. I mean, even like our honeymoon, she should have left me. Not our honeymoon. The what's the party before the marriage? Before you get married?
Before the something dinner, the rehearsal dinner?
No. The party before, like where you and your homeboys go out.
Oh, the bachelor party.
Bachelor party. Like I turned up missing for days. You know what I'm saying? I was just like,
where'd you go, dude?
I mean, just
out.
just on drugs and stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
out.
just like out and doing drugs and partying and you know, and the one thing I can always tell everybody is I never cheated on anybody.
Yeah.
You know, and that was one thing she was worried about. It's just, you cheat on me. Never cheated. Yeah, did we go to the strip club and stuff like that? Yeah, but I never like physically cheated on her. But I was just like 3 days of partying and then 2 more days that you were asleep, you know, and she had been blowing me up. Like she shouldn't have moved on. That's what I tell her all the time. Like, you should have gave me so many chances. But that continued. Like I was on my, you know, during the day I was just one way, and then when she was around I was one way, when she wasn't there I was another way. So I was living this double life. And
that is crazy that she stayed with you.
It is, bro. Like,
what did she say? Like, why she stayed with you?
Because she knew.
Like, why she even agreed to it in the first place? Because it doesn't seem like you were doing so hot the whole time.
I wasn't. So there was always.
And she's a smart lady.
Yeah, exactly right. There was always passion between us two.
Yeah.
Even when I was dating her friends and when we were still going to church, you know, I would still look across the pool table in the youth building and I'd be like, because all the other ones are white, you know? And she was really my first, like, introduction to the Spanish culture.
Yeah.
Besides, you know, my neighborhood and stuff. But, so I always had that look. And we've always flirted back and forth because she was always around my house. Mm-hmm. Like from the time she was 13 years old or whatever, she was hanging out with my sister. And she has her own testimony, but she went through some things that in her high school years, my parents basically raised her and helped her to get through school and into college and all those things. So she was always around, and I had enough game that I kept her on the hook. You know what I mean? And not saying that in a like I'm bragging about it, but I always was flirting with her enough and just kind of keeping her locked in because it's almost like I knew that I should be with her, but like we were contradicting each other so much in life. Yeah.
But so eventually y'all start dating.
So we started.
Eventually, I'm guessing you propose?
Yeah, I mean, I proposed to her while I was locked up.
And she was just like, yeah?
She came and visited me almost every single day for 4 months. Yeah. And she's, you know, when you hear people say ride or die, you know, I think of people like her, Shelly, that really just hold it down no matter what is going on. Yeah. You know? But our relationship was like, even we didn't have a honeymoon. Like there was no such thing as a honeymoon time because we were like, people didn't want to hang out with us because we fought all the time. Yeah. You know, and it was because I wasn't being truthful with myself or with her. And she knew it, you know? And then also like working relationships out because when you're on the streets and you're, it's hard to say when you're like in a gang, like you're not just supposed to show love to another woman. You know, they're hoes. Yeah. You know, and you're supposed to treat them in a certain way. And so I was trying to work a lot of that stuff out. Like, how do I love her? But this is the way I know how to treat them, right? Because of, you know, the last 10 years or whatever has been this way. So that was one of the issues that we had is I didn't know how to show love and compassion and those things. Like sex and all that was great, but it was the things in between that were hard to deal with.
But what I can't get, what doesn't make sense to me is like, I know you have all boys, but say you had a girl, and she was dating somebody, she had a relationship like y'all had at the beginning. It seems like you and Sanjo would probably be telling her, y'all need to break up, you got to get away from this guy. And so somehow, though she is still with you, Like I don't understand how
Sandra
that
didn't have
makes
that
sense.
support at home.
Okay.
She didn't have the support at home. You know, her father went to prison when she was young.
Okay.
So she, you know, like they say, you marry kind of like who your father was.
Was she still?
She always liked bad boys.
Yeah. Was she still in, like in the church and active and all? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, and I made a new commitment to God, but it was just like a new commitment on Sunday. You know, and I was still dealing with trying to clean my life up on the weekends, or really not putting the commitment to clean my life up throughout the week, I should say. So yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that she's always liked bad boys. She always liked the, and you got to think like, and I don't want to speak for her, but like, you know, they call it clout or whatever. Like I was the guy.
Yeah.
You know, I was the guy in the neighborhood. I mean, my homies from the neighborhood, they would like come to my house and get my keys and go wash my car for me. You know, and they would get things up, and they would set up things for the night and for me to show up. Like it was, I mean, it was like TV stuff. You know what I mean? It was, and that was one of the things I really struggled with early on. It was just like, how do I become humble again?
Yeah.
You know, and I was very aggressive and humble because like I could go anywhere and say anything because I knew there was 15 people behind me. So I was like the guy that was running. I mean, you think I run my mouth a lot now? Like I was that guy, you know? So it was tough. And that's what I always tell people. She was just like, how do we get our kids to be more aggressive in baseball? Because I was an aggressive football player, baseball player. But when I began to like work on myself and begin to ask the Lord to take some of that like anger and stuff out, well, that whole aggressive part of me like left, you know? So now I'm just like, oh man, we lost by 20. That's cool. You know, I'm just like, it's not in me no more.
Good game.
Yeah, good game. And then people on my team was like, nah, not a good game. We ain't slapping hands. But I don't even know where. So
okay, so you were in jail.
Yeah.
You have the encounter with Josh. That's where we left off.
Yeah, so, you know, then I just really started realizing, like, man, I got to get my life together. You got to get this girl that's committing, man, every one of her nights. She goes to work, goes to college, and then she comes sees me. So I had a little bit of money left that I saved for my mom to pay my child support. Right, because I still wanted to be the best father. I mean, I had a great father. He was alcoholic, but he was still good. He never missed anything. So I still wanted to make sure my kids were provided for. So I left a little bit of money there for her to continue to pay my child support. And then I told her to go down and pick a ring out, you know. And so I proposed to her while I was locked up, you know. And so I come out, and marriage was, man, the first 7 years of my marriage was rough. Yeah. Like to the point where she left me a couple times. And if it wasn't for her mom being so old school Mexican, like, no, you picked them, you go home and figure it out type thing, you know, we wouldn't be together right now. The last straw, like, so we just really struggled in marriage. She struggled in with helping with my kids because their mother was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and I didn't understand how to make two women happy. Right? I was trying to make their mom happy. I was trying to make her happy. But at the end of the day, that wasn't my role. My role was to make my wife happy. Yeah. And I was trying to balance two women at the same time. Not that I was cheating on them, but just trying to make both of them happy with the decision I was making. And still smoking weed, you know. We would still party on the weekend. Sandra would never like party or whatever. She would be there. Me and my brother-in-law, we would, you know, drink or whatever, and the ladies would sit around and talk, and we would party a little bit. But,
were y'all going to church?
By this time we wasn't. Okay. Like, so when we first got married, we would go like on Sundays, you know, in and out type deal. And then one day she went shopping with her sister, and so I was just, that was the thing for me. Like, let her go somewhere on Saturday. I'll sit back at the house, smoke some weed, and you know, I got so high, man, I forgot my weed bag on the back of the toilet where I was in there rolling a joint, and she come home, and my wife is so like sheltered. She didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
You know, she's never seen drugs before. I never brought it around her. So she was like, what is this? And I was just like, and I couldn't even come up with a good lie, you know? I was just like, whatever, it's weed. And so then she left again, you know, that was the last time she left. And that was my like reality check. Like, here I am in my 30s, and I'm about to go through my second divorce, right? I brought all these kids in this relationship, and I have, you know, her son, my kids, our kids, and I am, you know, ruining lives, you know, and I just got on my bed, and I just wept, man. And she was gone to her mom. She packed her stuff and she left, and I just began to weep. And it's one of the very few times that the only other time besides that time when I remember the first week in jail was always the hardest week. And I was just in my bunk, just kind of weeping a little bit, man, and trying to stay tough and hard and all those things, but it's still trying to like figure out what just happened, man. I was the man on the street. Now here I'm locked up, and I don't have nothing. People are telling me when to go to the restroom, when to take a shower, and losing freedoms and losing people that you love and all that. And I can remember crying out to God. It was just like, God, why did you leave me? You know, why did you leave me? And him saying, I never left you. You the one turned your back on me. You know, and that kind of helped me get through those things while I was there. But then fast forward to when she was leaving again, I just, you know, was just crying, really, really crying, because I know that I made a mistake. Now, all the like lying and all the, that's why she says you like been in the truth, right? Because that's what I always done for the first 17 years of our relationship, was been the truth just a little bit, enough that I had some truth in it, you know, and that was my game. And I was good at it. And, but I can remember just getting in front of God, and God challenged me, man, you have to be the man that God has called you to be. Instead of your kids and your wife begging you to go to church, you need to be the one getting them up, getting them dressed, and take them to the church. And I wish I could tell you like everything was good after that, you know. Man, there's some challenging times came from out that. Sandra and I were still fighting, but I understood that I had faults. The world told me everything that I was doing, I was the coolest and I was the best, and I had favor with people and all these things. I had drug dealers that would only talk to me. They wouldn't talk to other leaders of any other, you know, other gangs or whatever. And so it had me like on a pedestal, right? But I had to deal with that, because that pedestal didn't mean anything in my relationship with my wife or with God. And so from that point, man, I just started taking it. And that's what I tell everybody. Like, when you come off a situation and you give your life to the Lord, is just like, everybody was just like, you come as you are, come as you are. That's great, man. And I think that's what we should do. But we also have a responsibility to change, you know? And it's not one of those things that, hey, God's just going to take it from me and you're going to be a changed man. Yes, sometimes he does, you know, does a miracle in your life, and he takes away addiction, and he takes away hurts and pains and anger and depression sometimes. But a lot of times we have to work at it, you know, and that was what it was for me, man. I had to work at it every day. I would wake up and I would be intentional about change. And I would take the biggest thing in my life, the biggest, ugliest monster in my life, and I would just work on it intentionally every single day, and ask for forgiveness for the past and all those things by the people around me. And until that was out of my life. And then I wake up the next morning and then take the next biggest thing. And then to the point where like Sandra and I's relationship now was nothing less than amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's one of those, like, I get to talk to other people and just let them know what God could do if you just like give him everything and not hide things that he already knows is there.
Yeah.
You know? So that, I guess, I don't know if that's a short testimony or a long testimony or whatever it may be, but that's...
Well, tell us how you end up, because that gets you, because what? You ended at like you're 30-something now?
Yep.
So at some point you start preaching and stuff. So how does that happen?
Yeah, so just right there. So after that night, right, Sandra comes home. Her mom's just like, nope, go figure it out, right? So she comes home and I just told her what God had told me, you know, and I apologized to her. Now the next 2 years were some of the hardest years because I knew that I changed, but she didn't believe me.
Yeah. Well, why would she?
Why would she? Right.
Yeah.
So that was like some very pretty cool years for me later on because I had to realize that it wasn't about me, that I had to quit being selfish and prove to her that what I was saying was also a reality in my life.
Yeah. Right.
So it took some time, but after that, you know, we got maybe I think the next Sunday was the convocation. Oh. And so we came to the convocation that Sunday, and one of the nights during the convocation, we went up and had dinner afterwards. Yeah. And so we're sitting there, and Pastor Mark sits next to us, and he's like, "Hey, man, just haven't seen you in a while, blah, blah, blah." And he was youth pastor at the time. And so he was just like, "Hey, you know, if you ever thought about working with the youth?" And I was just like, I don't know about that. He was just like, "Come by next Wednesday night." And I think it was that Wednesday, the pastor's conference was over. Next Wednesday night, he said, "Come out and see, you know, what we got going on. If it's a good fit for you, then great. And then we'll see how it goes." And so we go over there, and Calvin was a youth leader. And me and him have a little bit of the same story. Yeah. You know, so we just really got connected with him and Shelly and started serving, you know, and then from there it was going to the Star of Hope and preaching to the less fortunate and the homeless and stuff like that. And I remember stories up there stumbling around trying to preach, and then like people from the back's like, "Hurry up, preacher, I'm hungry." Because they had to hear the God's word before they could eat. Yeah. And then here you got this little young guy that doesn't know what he's saying. Stumbling around, and this dude's hungry, and, you know. So, but it built character, you know. It built character for me to understand, like, man, you have to, first of all, you have to be prepared. You have to understand what the people are going through that you're talking to, and all these different things. And then Pastor Mark, you know, he's been a huge influence in my life. And him and Pastor Keenan showed me what a Christian man looked like. Yeah. And he gave me opportunity after opportunity, one after another. And then because of that, the Lord has just been able to open up doors. And he's allowed me to walk through doors. When I was and just to kind of back up a little, I was never a good student. So I really struggled learning the way that the school taught. You know, I didn't learn that way. And back then, it was show me your work. This is the only way to get the answer. And if you can't get the answer this way, then it's wrong. Right. Right. And so I didn't do good in school. So instead of trying, I became the class clown. Yeah. Right. If they wanted to put me. So back then, either you was a good student or you was in the class with like the kids that
rode the short bus kind of
stuff. Like literally couldn't wipe their own drool coming out of their mouth. And I was just like, I battled back and forth because here I was a star athlete, but they put me in the classes with the guys that were retarded. I don't know if that's I'm not trying to be slang or anything, but I I don't know what the term is. That was a term back then. So I had this like identity crisis going on at the same time because I wasn't dumb. I just didn't learn the same way. Now they have programs for all that stuff, and you don't have to do it like the teacher says. I don't know if that answered your question.
But you're just saying,
oh yeah,
because you had trouble learning.
Yeah, so I didn't do, and then so that's where I was going. So, and because of that, I preach different.
Yeah,
and because of that, I think that
you don't write messages the same.
I don't write messages in the same way, and then for what people tell me, I'm a little bit easier to follow and listen because I'm long-winded at that. You know, so I'm an hour preacher, so hour preachers sometimes are hard to listen to.
Yeah.
You know, so because of the way the Lord has built me, I write messages different, and maybe that's why that He has allowed me to not learn the same way, because now I'm able to teach. And when I read the Bible, nobody else reads the Bible like me. You know, I'm like, hey, did you read this? They're like, no, I didn't know that was there. But the way I read it, you know, what do you call it when you get the dyslexic? So I'm super, super bad dyslexic. To the point where I can write, and Sandra was just like, you get the A and the E backwards. So I'll write it again and do it at the same time 3 times. You know, so it's just like I can't get it from my brain to my hand. You know, something's not computing there, and you know, and that's really driven her to do all the things that she's done in her career too, because she's always wanted to. Through my story, she didn't want the next little David to have to deal with the things that I dealt with in school.
Wow.
So she's become a dyslexia specialist, and now she's doing whatever she's doing. But, you know, just to help the kids, because she's seen the struggle that I went through. So
it's amazing. And so that all started just because Pastor Mark said, hey, why don't you come swing by the youth?
Swing by the youth, man. And then we just dove straight in.
That's great.
And so over the next few years, Sandra and I patched our relationship up and beginning to serve. You know, went from the youth to my cousin and I started Crux. And from there, we planted a church. I left there. I was associate pastor at that church, became a youth pastor, became a small groups pastor, and now I'm executive pastor here at Elam. So
it's amazing.
Yep.
That's a good story.
Yep. I appreciate it.
Oh, man.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for stopping by, and we love you.
This is the Refuge Project.